What's up, guys? Good day, and welcome back to Show and Tell. My name is Jesse Hughes.
And as always, I am Daniel A. Gilmore.
We are talking about this movie called Nightcrawler. It's a 2014 movie. It might be the most recent movie that we've done. I mean, it is the most recent, but it might be the smallest time gap between when it came out and now. Starring Jake Gyllenhaal, Rene Russo, Bill Paxton. Directed by first-time director Dan Gilroy, not to be confused with Dan Gilmore.
That's why I have the A there.
I can't emphasize enough that this is his directorial debut. And, to me, directing-wise, there's not anything that I would do any differently than he did. Just flawlessly directed. And I think that's really impressive for a first-time director. I just have to read this from his biography from IMDb. He was born in Santa Monica. He was the son of Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright Frank Gilroy and sculptor and writer Ruth Dorothy. His brother, Tony Gilroy, is a screenwriter and director, and his fraternal twin brother, John Gilroy, is a film editor. So I guess it runs in the family. Talent, in general, runs in the family. So that's Dan Gilroy, the director of this movie. I'll let you start it off.
So, you showed me this movie, Jesse.
What's that?
Nah, it was awesome. I loved it.
You loved it? Oh, good. We sat down, and I look at Dan's card, and he has one card. And I'm like, did you not like it? He's like, yep, I hated it. Let's talk about it. Did you hate it? You didn't hate it?
No, it was great.
You loved it. All right, cool.
It was awesome.
Good. All right. What do you got first on your card?
Well, it just opens up, and I noticed Bill Paxton is in this.
I'm getting you a new cable.
Yeah.
Okay, start exactly where you were, Bill Paxton.
Oh, so we're watching the credits as they're going, and I noticed Bill Paxton's in this.
So that's a weird thing for me. What are your thoughts on Bill Paxton?
I love Bill Paxton.
Really? Universally?
Yes.
It was a funny thing growing up because one of the people who really got me into movies was my older brother, Gabriel, and he hated Bill Paxton. So I hated Bill Paxton. One of the first movies I saw in theater was Twister. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know, going back, I haven't watched it in a long time, but my brother always thought he was...
Twister's not good.
No, okay. So it's just the movie in general.
Yeah.
He was great in this movie. I loved him in this movie. I've loved him in other stuff. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but
Aliens?
More recently... Aliens, I don't remember much, because I was really... Again, that was something I watched with my brother, and I don't remember much of it.
True Lies? Weird Science?
Is he in Weird Science? He's in a bunch of old movies that I don't even remember him being in because I had these blinders on that told me to hate him. But yeah, he is a really good actor. He's great in this movie. Jake Gyllenhaal and Rene Russo. Did you have any reaction to? I mean, I
knew Jake.
You knew Jake, yeah.
He's great in general.
Yeah.
Rene Russo, I couldn't really care.
Rene Russo to me is Lethal Weapon. That's her role. Mel Gibson's wife.
Yeah.
In Lethal Weapon?
Girlfriend, whatever it is.
Girlfriend, whatever it is, yeah. That's my experience from Rene Russo, but she's a really good actress, and it's great to see her in this movie. The opening of the movie, and I didn't realize the impact that the music has on the movie until...
the music's so good.
Oh, it's so good. Until the second time I watched it, and this was the third time I've seen it. But I didn't realize it until a specific scene, and I'll tell you what that scene is when we get there, but just throughout the movie, the music's fantastic. James Newton Howard, and it's very out of his element in terms of what the music is. It's this guitar, I just see this the Boss style dude just sitting there playing guitar on this amplifier and James Newton Howard kind of building the music around it. It's just all very electric guitar oriented, but very clean and very reminiscent of what I think is going on in the main character's head. And I'll kind of touch on that as we go along. But yeah, love the music in the movie. And the opening, the city shots they're really establishing the place in the movie, which is Los Angeles, as a character in the movie. And it really is. Los Angeles is probably, other than Jake Gyllenhaal's character Lou, the biggest character in the movie. And the opening shots kind of give way to that, and it really follows throughout the movie, which I love.
Just him punching out that security guard.
Yeah, just an awkward mugging.
Immediately, just to kind of establish he's a shitty dude.
Yeah. And I think that's a constant with our movies. It's a big deal and it's been a big deal in a lot of our episodes. We watch movies with terrible people as the central characters, and I think it's compelling. I think that's why we enjoy watching those kinds of characters. But yeah, he's instantly a terrible dude. I like the line, there's no signs. They're everywhere. And, it's like a cop pulls you over for doing a U-turn where there was clearly a sign. You're like, I didn't see a sign. Yeah. So he's a scavenger.
Yeah, he's scrapping.
Mm-hmm. One of the shots after he's mugged the security guard.
Oh, just all the stuff in his trunk, you mean?
Yeah, all the stuff in his trunk. And then there's just a centralized shot on the tape deck of the dashboard of his old jalopy. Mm-hmm. It's a Toyota Tercel. Mm-hmm. And I think it's like from after having seen the movie already, it's kind of like a sign of things to come. This is about to change, the kind of rig that he's driving right now. Yeah,
the car being another character.
Right, exactly. Like that. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
I just like his interaction with the guy at the junkyard or whatever.
He's very well spoken. Mm-hmm. And like one of the lines that I like is, if you want to win the lottery, you have to make the money to buy a ticket. Mm-hmm. So it's strange to see someone who has made their living up to this point, it's perceived, being a thief, to be so well spoken and have such a clear drive towards accomplishing something basically with his life.
Oh, yeah, no, even just him giving out the numbers and stuff.
Exactly. He's a likable sleazeball. Yeah. He's looking for a calling, any calling, and he's looking for someone to basically give that to him.
Yeah. Well, just like the guy, I don't hire thieves.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a solid point.
Yeah, but you're not against buying from them.
Jake Gyllenhaal is initially very gaunt in the movie. He lost 20 pounds for the role, and this was based on his own decision. He viewed Lewis as a hungry coyote, which became a theme throughout the movie, and I'll reference that as we go. To gain his gaunt appearance, he exercised 8 hours a day, and he either ran or biked to the set every day. So just crazy dedication to keeping his character as scrawny as he was. And then we're instantly introduced to Bill Paxton's character, who is Joe, who has... initially, my first time viewing it, this is a very interesting occupation for them to focus on for the movie, something that you wouldn't even think about, but it's a real occupation, being a Nightcrawler, filming accidents, basically. His line, if it bleeds, it leads. So that kind of gives you an idea of what they're looking for. And then Jake Gyllenhaal, after he's met Joe, and Joe refuses to really give him much information at all. Jake Gyllenhaal's really good at brooding. You can kind of see it in his face for about 10 seconds before they cut to the next scene, where he's just like, this is something that maybe I might be good at, know. And then they shoot to, this is one of the first references to the coyote theme. They shoot to the Bird's Eye commercial, where you see a bunch of coyotes. And I love that commercial. Potatoes!
Well, no, it didn't just cut to him biting the bike? When he steals the bike?
That was after that. So it cuts to him at home, so we see his home. And that actually becomes important later on as he's upgrading, his lifestyle. His home doesn't change. That's what's interesting about it. He's watching, he's kind of surfing through news channels to find out if Joe's statements are validated. Yeah. Like if he's, if what he's doing is really important, he's going to see it on one news channel. And he ends up seeing it on the same news channel that he becomes a part of, which is interesting. And then we've got the bike scene and a really well shot scene. Pretty much the whole movie is well shot.
Him pulling his hair back,
right?
When he steals
to prepare.
Yeah,
because if his hair gets in the way, it's all over.
Well, because he does it twice during the movie that I noticed.
Yeah, I like the kind of the shot is him consistently for a good 30 seconds to a minute. From his perspective with the bike in the background, and then right before it ends the scene, it shifts to the bike's perspective, and it's like the bike is beckoning him, like the bike knows.
And then just immediately cuts to him. He pulls back his hair, and then he's in the shop, just driving it around.
Yeah, circling, just bullshitting. A great bullshitter. Smooth talk, telling him how he won the not the Tour de France, but something like that. He won a bike race with this bike. He wants $2,500 for it.
Or $800 in store credit.
Store credit. What do you want? A camcorder and a police scanner. And then so it begins. He's found something that he's going to try to be passionate about. He has set his mind to something. And it's interesting because he starts the movie trying to be employed by the guy he's selling, the stuff he's stolen from. And you kind of imagine that he's been doing this in the past. But now he's found something that he can
do by himself.
Employ himself. Yeah. And so this kind of becomes his obsession and his passion.
Well, I feel like, no matter what he did, that would be him.
Yeah.
Just wanting to prove himself.
Exactly. Yeah. That's kind of what he had to find, and we're kind of watching him find that one thing. So then he just kind of rolls right in.
I love just like him filming like the breathalyzer.
The breathalyzer. It's like, there are rules, dude. You can't And then they're just yelling, "Oh, what the hell are you doing here?" Like, I don't know. What's going on? What's happening? I don't know. Get out of here.
Then he films the first thing where he bumps into the other guy, Ace.
Mm-hmm. He's really ballsy. Like, initially, he's getting kind of right into what's going on at the scene, which ends up being his saving grace, in his first find. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's disrupting a veteran of night crawling, and he gets really upset about it. And then his parasitic nature, he's a coyote, he's feeding on others, is evident in this scene as he's just closely following Ace, getting an idea of what his job is like as he's calling, someone and saying, "Here's what I got, here's what we're moving on to, or what do you got, He's nosy as hell, and then the guy just turns around. He's like, "Really, dude?"
Yeah.
Same reaction I would have.
And then that's when we introduced Rene Russo's character.
Yeah, so the first time I was watching the movie, Rene Russo was great. It was just really cool to see her. It's just been such a long time since I've seen her. She's the wife of Dan Gilroy, so she's the director's wife, which is interesting. He directed another movie, not directed, but he co-wrote another movie with her in it. I can't remember what it was. But 3 of the movies that I was familiar with that he wrote the screenplay for: 2 for the Money, which is Matthew McConaughey and Al Pacino. Real Steel, terrible movie. He wrote the screenplay for that movie. And The Bourne Legacy was okay. It wasn't as good as any of the other Bourne movies.
I've heard mixed things about Real Steel.
Oh, Real Steel's awful.
Really?
Do not watch that movie. It's terrible. It's like
that was my choice for next week.
What was that other Hugh Jackman movie?
Wolverine?
No.
The other Wolverine movie?
The one with the robot, Chappie. It's like that. Oh. It's as polished as that movie is. So he meets Rene Russo, and this is the person whom he's going to sell his first video, and as it turns out, all subsequent videos. He develops a very unique relationship with Rene Russo's character, who's Nina.
My question was, do people really want to see graphic, though?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that is what sells. Like, I was recently on Facebook. I don't get on too often, but someone had posted, a friend of mine from New York had posted a video of a cop shooting a deer because it wouldn't get out of the way of his car. So he's at the gas station, and hear this story out. He's at a gas station. He's trying to get out of the gas station. There's a deer standing in front of the car, and he waits for about 30 seconds and then gets out, shoots a deer square in the head, and then drives, around. We don't see it. We assume he drives around the deer. Mm. That's the video. And so the video is police brutality. But the truth of the matter is the deer was actually hit by another truck coming into the gas station. It had a broken leg. The cop was trying to see if the deer would move on its own, and it didn't. So he put the deer out of its misery. But the perception of the video is that police are brutal. They're going to kill innocent animals. And that's how the video was sold. And that's what this movie's about. It's kind of like selling this, as we see later on. One of the big events in the movie turns out to be, a family that was involved in a drug deal. So it wasn't just a normal person. Yeah. But they didn't want to report on that because that's not what people want to see. That's not what sells. That's not what people are going to watch. So it's an interesting commentary on kind of the American dream and, what it means basically and the flaws of it.
I don't know. My issue is I want to hear the truth.
Of course, yeah, and I do too. I feel that way as well. I think anyone would say that. Anyone would say, "I want to hear the truth," but underneath, they want to believe that the truth is something absolutely unbelievable, something that they can talk about at work. Which again is something that Nina says later that she is aiming for with her station.
But you don't think that would be just as compelling to hear about these white upscale people selling drugs out of their homes?
Absolutely, it would be. Yeah, absolutely to me. But
it's not like that other end is...
For her, that's a risk that she's not willing to take.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. I think that's the problem with the media.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what this movie's about, is the problem with the media, basically. I like her response to him. He says, "Here's what I got." And she's like, "I already got that." He says, "I was much closer to what happened." Yeah. Giggles and he's a little awkward at first. But then she's like, "Okay, what's it going to hurt to let me see it?" And then, it does have some merit to it.
And she pays him less than what they offered Ace.
Oh, what did they offer Ace?
$300.
Did she say that? Oh, yeah. So she offers him $50 less than basically what they offered Ace. I like that. That's the initial reaction of her. Frank, I think it is, her kind of confidant until the end when she pulls in not Joan Cusack, but one of the Cusacks, a character who comes in and kind of calls the shots in terms of what they're going to air. But Frank says, "You're going to show this?" And she says, "With a warning. They'll talk about it. it kind of shows that she has this desire to show what sells, basically, what people are going to watch, and, as she says, talk about at work.
Oh, yeah, because they said it's going to be 6 a.m. or whatever.
Right. And then she says straight out, a carjacking in Compton, that isn't news. She's talking to Lou about, what he should look for. She says a carjacking in Compton isn't news. What's news is something bad happening to white people. That's basically, she says that pretty much verbatim. Yeah. So it's just like, we know what kind of people these are. And again, it's compelling to watch because these kind of people really do exist. She says, think of our newscast as a screaming woman running down the street with her throat cut. Yeah.
But yeah, I like the comedy in this movie.
Yeah.
It was my favorite thing.
Yeah. Especially his interactions with her. Most of those comedic moments are between the two of them. He's really awkward.
Well, him and then him and Rick.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of funny moments between him and Rick as well. Great characters.
He's like, hey, Lou. It's Lewis.
But everybody calls him Lou, right? I didn't really pay attention, but doesn't she call him Lou?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he even introduced himself.
He's not okay with his new employee calling him Lou.
That's
what it is. He expects a certain...
respect.
Exactly.
Well, he presents that as like professionalism as well.
Yeah.
So
exactly. So then again, another wave of really cool music as he is archiving his first news story, carjacking crime wave. The music as it kind of excels during that scene. And then we've got kind of this montage scene where he's learning police codes, which is really cool. That's a cool dedication and something you wouldn't think about having to know as someone who is chasing stories.
Well, no, I think that's what he realized after this first day.
Yeah, he had
responding to all these codes.
He kind of got lucky with that third story that we witnessed, that he was able to get in there and get something that was worthwhile because he wasn't there very long. But it kind of showed his initial ability to shoot really well, which is really imperative to the movie. The movie is really about someone who's really great at directing, and so having a great director behind all of that was important to the movie. And I think Dan Gilroy really nailed it.
Well, I like he starts to get better, and he's like setting up the framing in the shot.
Oh God!
And then he talks about it though.
We'll talk about that when we get there. Oh my God! Yeah, like that scene was crazy, and kind of the implication of what that's about in terms of what directing is and how to frame a shot. Like he talks about that a lot. This is one of those movies that kind of extends beyond what I usually look at in terms of. You've heard me talk a lot about framing and really good shots. I don't talk about much of that during this movie because it's all perfect. Oh, yeah. Like, there's not really any shots that jump out because it's all fantastic. And the same goes for the performances. Like, I don't really look at this movie as actors performing. It's just such a consistent film in terms of who's in it and what's happening that I didn't even reference, like, how amazing Jake Gyllenhaal is in this movie, because it's such a real character that I don't even think about it being an actor. And that's a testament, again, to the quality of this film. Then after he's learned the police codes, he's watching The Court Jester, a 1955 movie with Danny Kaye in it. And he's ironing.
Yeah, I was wondering what movie that was.
So he's ironing. He kind of looks, back like he's looking at someone, like he has an imaginary cat or something, which you could believe this character doing. And he just laughs, and it's just like it's so humorous how absorbed he is in everything that he does, even when it's something as simple as like ironing his clothes and watching, a really old movie on TV. He has a green thumb, he has his plant that he's like watering.
Yeah, because he's good at whatever he does.
Exactly. Like, yeah, that's what's really cool about this character, is he just, whatever it takes, basically, to be good at whatever he's doing. So then from there, we are meeting Riz Ahmed's character, Rick, who is initially lazy, timid, lacking confidence, and pretty much, keeps with that throughout the movie, but offers a lot of, like you said, comedy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like that whole first meeting, because he's essentially like homeless.
Yeah.
And
I find it funny that, and I think this is realistic, that he's homeless, but he has a smartphone with GPS on it. Mm-hmm. That's the priority in America.
Oh, yeah.
And that might be another, intentional add-in from the director and the writers.
Well, they were giving me numbers, and it was however many people are on Earth. There's essentially twice the amount of cell phones.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's crazy. I read something recently that said that based on a survey, Americans watch Netflix more than they exercise, sleep, work, like combined, like every other extracurricular activity combined. The diner that they're having the interview in is the diner from Drive. Did you ever see Drive?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So he starts him out with a basic job. It's an internship, of course, which he's not cool with initially, but $30 a night, okay, that's cool.
I can do that. Yeah.
Basic stuff, watch the car, learn the police codes. And then we're watching him teaching the police codes to Rick, which is cool because it feels like, in terms of like the time that goes by in the movie, it feels like the whole movie takes place over like maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months. Like he's a fast learner and he's already teaching Rick the police codes that he's probably learned in like 3 days because he just has this. He probably has a photographic memory and he just has this really good retention, basically. And then there's lots of waiting, which comes back later in the movie. We're just kind of seeing this collage of scenes where they're waiting for the right police, announcement. And I like the scene with
montage.
Lou sitting on top of the car with his legs crossed. It's like his meditation, And
then they get the call, and it was the
structure fire. Yeah. So Riz and Jake rode with actual Nightcrawlers to prepare for their roles. And in this scene from the structure fire, their first scene together, the last two actors leaving the accident scene are the Nightcrawlers that they actually went with. So that's kind of a cool ad. Rick is guiding him to the scene. It's 5 blocks ahead. Oh, no, wait. It's 5 blocks back. Oh, he messed up.
Well, then, he just like cost me $5 in gas just to get here.
Right. That initial scene, like the first time I watched it, I'm like, what is Lou going to do? He's such an interesting and unpredictable character already. What's his reaction going to be? And I like his reaction as kind of this manager of this company already. Don't answer with a problem, bring me a solution. He's being fair. Yep. So, yeah.
Communication, number one key to success.
Throughout the movie, aside from the fate of Rick's character, or Riz's character, Rick, he's very fair throughout the movie. Lou gives him a lot of opportunity to prove himself, and he doesn't. And so that's ultimately ends up being his fate. He talks about fear. False evidence appearing real is what fear means. That's kind of fun.
I've heard that in something else before. Yeah. I don't know what, though.
And then in the second scene that he goes to where he gets the shot from inside the couple's house that had the shooting, he talks to a woman initially who curses and he asks her to and she mentions not having a TV. And I'm like, why do so many people in this movie?
I know. There's at least 2 characters now
who don't have TVs.
I was wondering about that, too.
Thought that was funny.
Well, I just, the television news.
Yeah. Television news. And he doesn't really evolve the name from there. Video production news is what it becomes. And it's like, you can do better than that. But in this scene is the first time we witness Lou basically not taking no for an answer. All of the action has happened, but he's like, I'm going to get a story. So he, it kind of accentuates his drive towards being the best at this.
Yeah, goes into the house. And then sets up that shot.
Just awesome. Yeah.
I just like his, like, that you like, same thing, the sense of direction and framing and stuff. That he knew, like, to move the family photos up.
Yeah, and he's like, this is his second, real job, and he already has, like, a knack for this. And it's really cool to see him framing that and you going, like, half of me is going, this is wrong, and then half of me is going, this is a much better story than what's probably going to be told by everyone else who filmed what happened here, basically. He's the Spielberg of TV news. And then there's a really cool scene between Lou and Nina in the studio where their newscasts actually take place, and he gives a great speech about his passion and his drive, and he talks about all of his knowledge comes from the internet. But he apparently knows where to find, what's legitimate knowledge and what's not, because pretty much everything he says is
it's Google.
Yeah, it's exactly. But he gives a great speech. And then, we have that montage. He's on the hunt, and we're witnessing story after story. And I think it's cool during this scene, we see a lot of successes, but we also see failures. We see a scene where he's kind of like rubbing his head and like throwing his arms in the air because they didn't get there in time. So it's cool to see, we're seeing successes and failures during that montage where he's learning and becoming better.
And then it cuts to him in his new car.
Yeah, so we're seeing all the stories he's a part of, and then this has obviously made him money, and now here he is with his new car. It's a Dodge Challenger SRT.
I thought that was the coolest. I mean, that's the end, but when they're filming in the car chase, and he has like the mount.
Oh yeah,
in the car.
Yeah,
I thought that was cool.
He criticizes Rick for damaging the paint on his car for spilling gasoline on it. But he starts with a comment or a compliment on Rick's performance. That's management 101. Like,
yeah, you've been doing great. He's like, but do that again and I'll have to fire you.
It's a good movie to watch if you want, an idea of how to be a good manager, because he, the way he interacts with Rick is actually really, you can kind of see Rick's eyes light up as Lou begins his conversations with him. But of course, it always ends with a, hey, here's how you could get better. Don't spill the paint on my car.
Yeah.
I expect you to get better on this. Random quote from Rick. Bed, Bath, and Beyond. Oh, yeah, that's a good story. Like, what?
Well, was he illiterate? Was that
that was like, yeah, that scene kind of implied that. It was so random.
Well, no, because then it cuts to the next part, and he's like, did you read my note about, like, going down the street?
Oh, yeah.
And then he goes, yeah, I read it. And he goes, what did it say? Oh, the thing about 8th. And then he's like, no.
I just looked at it.
Yeah.
Maybe he's illiterate, yeah.
So I was kind of wondering about that.
That's funny, yeah. Could be the case. So then this is that scene where he really sets up the scene. This is the first time he's arrived before the police with the overturned vehicle. And then, like, this is the first thing he does in the movie where you're like, this is pretty wrong. He grabs the body, draws it into the car so they can get the right shot.
Yes.
And this was the scene, the first time I watched the movie, where the music really hit me and I realized what was happening musically. It's really cool, like, the way the music has this really melodic quality to it. But when it hits a chord that has to do with, like, Lou's actions, it gets really dissonant, which is like this harmony that fits as closely as it can be before not fitting with the chords of the melody. And that scene kind of happens as he raises the camera over his head and then kind of goes in for the shot of the woman who has her head. She was the driver. She has her head in the dashboard. There's kind of this dissonant chord in it. And so throughout the movie, even from before this scene, the music kind of represents what's going on in Lou's head in terms of where he's willing to cross the line. You can kind of sense that in the cadence of the music, in where it excels and decelerates, basically. So it's kind of cool to watch it again, and the music really plays as much of a role as Lou's actions and as the directing does. This kind of shows us the depths that he'll go to. Of course, he goes to greater depths as we go throughout the movie, but this is kind of the beginning of that. Wow, he's really willing to do that to get the right story.
He said he would do anything.
And then...
well, that's when he's talking to Nina, and he kind of says, like, I'm really focusing on framing.
Yeah,
now. Is that blood on your shirt? I don't think so.
Doesn't care. He got a great shot.
But it's like, he's like, I don't think so. And it's like, it's on your arm, too. I hadn't noticed.
I hadn't noticed. And then the end of the scene, he's kind of like, oh, that is blood. And then, like, this scene is capitalized by him asking Nina out, like, as she's referencing the blood on his shirt.
Well, I just like him, like, reading, like, Yelp reviews.
Yeah.
A taste of Mexico.
So he meets up with Joe again, and now Joe is trying to schmooze him into his own company because he sees that he has talent. And
well, because he had beaten him at the crash site.
Yeah.
And he, realized that, oh, that's his exclusive now.
Exactly. He's probably looked at all his stories and gone, well, he's actually kind of doing well right now. And then he talks about the cameras that he has, and he says 2.4 megapixel cameras. So I'm like, when does this take place? I didn't even look it up, but
I didn't either.
I assume it takes place.
It had to have been pretty recently.
Early 2000s.
Because they had the phones and everything.
Yeah. But I'm thinking like early 2000s. The dawn of Metro PCS. That's probably what Rick had. I like his line to Joe, you keep talking like it's something I may be interested in.
Yeah. He's like, well, I'll let you mull it over. And he's like, no.
Don't need to do that.
He's like, you need to find somebody else. I really want to just, what do you say, like, yell at your face?
Yeah. And we get an idea of Joe's character here when he says, you'd be asking me, what does this mean? What does that mean? It's an example of kind of someone, it's something that Lou mentioned in his conversation with Nina in the news studio, was that you have to have the reason you're going for something is as important as what you're going for. And this is an example of Joe being someone who doesn't have a reason. He just has something he's going for, and in this case, it's pretty much money. And he sees Lou as someone who can get him more money,
or
and that's kind of
competing with his money.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that too. And so he's trying to poach him basically, and then when he doesn't, of course, that's detrimental to what he's going for, and it ultimately ends up being his downfall. He underestimates Lou. And then we have his date, Lou's date with Nina. I also like the way you smell. He kind of lists off the things that it's just like...
He's very, like, awkward.
He's kind of like a robot. Like, he's just kind of listing off these, here's what I should say here.
But he sees the value in doing things like that.
Yeah, exactly. He's really knowledgeable of her business, his business. And, you know, as much as she tries to shoot him down on a personal level, he gives her this business equation for why they need to sleep together. That's pretty much all he's going for, which is something important to him. It's something he can't gain, like, through the means that most of us do. So he has to do it through this business transaction, extortion. And he doesn't see it that way. He just sees it as, you know, this is how I have to do it based on my personality. Yeah. So it's kind of this admirable quality, but it's really awkward to admire that quality in someone. And then his last line, well, I like this line, and this is true. The true price of any item is how much someone is willing to pay for it. Mm-hmm. And then the last line of the scene, a friend is a gift you give yourself. Yeah. And then it shows her, and like her reaction is like, this is kind of getting under her skin in a good way. Like she's kind of being turned on. Like it seems that way, but they don't resolve the scene. The scene ends there at this unresolvable, and all of their romantic quote unquote interactions resolve in the same way, which is, I think, really cool because I don't think any of us wanted to see them physically involved. Yeah. But the implication,
anyway.
Yeah, it wouldn't add exactly. It wouldn't add anything to the story. But the implication is very clear at the beginning, and then what actually ends up happening is clear by their third, you know, interaction where they reference their physical relationship. So now he's got this option between two accidents. One of them's 5 minutes away, and one's 22 minutes away, according to Rick's GPS, and he prioritizes the bigger one, the 22 minutes away, which is that plane crash. Mm-hmm. So he's following through on his willingness to be risky, but of course it ends up being
doesn't pay off.
Joe beats him there, and then he starts to regress. You know, Nina says she wants, you know, what he promised her.
Yeah,
and he says, I was just trying not to be too hard on myself. You know,
I love that. I mean, he's like, well, we still have this the shooting or whatever.
It's legit, yeah. And then after that, you know, as he's regressing in his quality, there's a scene where Jake Gyllenhaal is yelling at himself in a mirror, like throws him, slams a mirror, crashes it. He actually cut his hand during filming of that scene and had to get 14 stitches, so they had to stop filming so that he could go to the hospital and get stitches before they could resume. He actually memorized the movie like a play, and that was what I read as the trivia. And what I perceive that as, it didn't go into detail of what that meant, but what I perceive that as is he probably memorized it before they began filming and didn't reference the script since then. And it sounds like him. Like everything he's been in is so natural, especially this role. So that's an interesting thing, is that he memorized it cover to cover like a play and then probably didn't reference the script again. And you can see that in his performance. And then he's, you know, we see again another layer of depth that he's willing to go to as he is eliminating the competition, you know, cutting the brake lines on Joe's van.
How do they crash into a...
Oh, my God. And then Rick says, you know, they're one of us. Not anymore, Rick. We're professionals. He's a sale. So messed up.
Yeah.
Sociopath 101 now.
That's the word I was looking for.
Sociopath, is that it? Yeah. He's a sociopath. Just... through and through, cut and dry. And then we've got the biggest story of the movie that he lands, the home invasion. And again, he's in before the police, and they're shooting initially. He's already filming, and there's
he's filming.
Still
he sees the guys
shootings going off.
Coming out, yeah.
And he chooses not to run. Again, accentuates his drive, his passion, his willingness to risk basically his life to get a good story. Mm-hmm. And then as he's running through the house filming, you know, they leave a little bit of what he films out for a little later in the movie, but Rick runs in as he's impatient and wondering, well, did my boss just get shot? And then as they're running out, I like Lou's, you know, he's having another conversation with him about showing initiative. He's like, if you wanted to come in, you should have come in initially. You know, don't wait. The most important thing you can do in a business is make yourself indispensable. You could learn about, you know, I just think it's really cool about.
Oh, he's giving him a business lesson.
Exactly. And now he pulls the computer out, tells Lou to wait in the car because he said so. He's editing the film instantly, kind of like what Joe recommended to him. He doesn't send it to him wirelessly, but he does. You know, he instantly edits it.
Then it goes to the newsroom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another great line, she asks why he didn't call it in, and he says, to increase your need and to improve my bargaining position.
Yeah.
damn. She's like, fair enough. That's very you. And then after he shows it to her, as she's talking to him about money, it cuts to another Bird's Eye commercial. So the coyote theme comes back again. At the end of the commercial, it's dinner is complete. So it's kind of this implication that he has satisfied his hunger for the moment in finding this footage. The coyote theme throughout the movie was so it kind of permeated the movie so in such a way that they thought about adding it as an alternate title, like having the title be Coyote or something like that. So kind of an interesting thing, but they still went with Nightcrawler. When I initially heard about it, I just thought it was the origin story of one of the X-Men. And so as he's negotiating the price with her, he leverages the fact that the story is not over. He says, people are going to want to know that they're safe. They're going to want more coverage of this story because the killers are still at large. And then he lists his demands, very, very cut and dry. Here's what I want. Video production news. I want you to talk about it. I want you to reference my name. I want to meet everybody. And it's like you hear this list and you think, a normal person would say, you're crazy. Get out of here. But Nina's also crazy. And as he gets crazier, she gets more turned on. And then this is another.
You'll do what I say in the bedroom next time.
Yeah, like that line, and then the scene ends again, just like their scene in the restaurant on a cliffhanger. We don't know the end of this scene, which works for the movie. But again, like her response to him is just this sense of awe, and that's it. We don't hear her response, which is kind of cool. And now, so they're showing the footage on the news, like they've got just a really short, they've got 10 minutes when he brings it in, they've got 10 minutes to put it on the news or not. She makes a decision to put it on because it's so sensational. And then the idea to me of the two anchors delivering the news while listening to their earpieces and responding in the way that the control room is telling them to respond is just baffling to me. We do it at work. I mean, we've got the earpieces on and we have to, but even in my element, I'm kind of clumsy with it. I have to tell someone, hold on, I got to respond to that, so I can't even imagine. And I know real anchors have to do that. So it's kind of this cool ballet that they do.
Well, it's something that you have to respond to. It's just them telling you what to say or like leading you.
Well, yeah, but like to speak while that's in my ear, like I couldn't imagine doing that. That's crazy. And they really deliver, like their performance in terms of what they say in response to what they're told to say is really natural. So it's admirable. And then Lou is really proud of his work. They go onto the scene, and the anchor on the scene says, hey, the cops want to talk to whoever's responsible.
He's like, I filmed that.
Tell them it's me. They can't even hear you. He's like, oh, okay. Next time.
And then he kind of skulks back.
And then it shoots from there back into his home. And this is when it occurred to me during this viewing that he hasn't upgraded anything in his life other than what makes his work better. Because you go into his home every time since he's become successful. His TV is the same size. He has an ironing board. He's got the little plant. His home hasn't changed at all. He hasn't moved into a bigger place. That kind of aids his persona as someone who is innocent of what he's eventually accused of, which is an interesting trait. Yeah. He'll only upgrade his car because it assists with his work. He'll only buy better cameras, but at home, nothing has changed. So that's an interesting character trait, and again, it makes complete sense for his character.
I just like his interaction with the cops. Like, can we come in?
Great.
Well, do you want to come in?
Do you want to? He's like, I don't care. Yeah, come on in.
Well, he's like, why? And they're like, why not?
He's delighted to have guests.
Do I have to give you that tape?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? I already made a copy.
He's really smooth. Yeah. He's awkward, but he's smooth, and he appears innocent, even to us watching it. Like, I'm watching it going, well done, dude. Like, you're a terrible person, but you kind of covered that really well. I don't think you're going to get caught. And then, like, after they leave, we see him watching the real footage that he still has. So we get to see everything that he actually has, which is
Google's the license plate.
Right, yeah. And we're like, oh, wow, what is he about to do? And the first time I was watching, as it dawned on me, I was like, this is, like, that's the lowest low he's willing to go to, with really no recompense at all for what he's done, by the end of the movie. We're going to go find he's in the car with Rick, and we're going to go find the killers. And I'm like, what? What is wrong with you? And then Rick, being a normal person, says, you got to call the cops. We will.
Yeah,
at the right time.
The right time and place.
That's the moment as Rick that you just get out of the car and you just go.
I'm going to offer you a promotion.
I like his line. Lou says, I'm offering you a real opportunity here. And he wants him to just grab it and go based on his own passion. But Lou, as a normal person, says, to do what? Yeah. To be a terrible person? I mean, Does it come with a raise? Yes.
Yes.
Name a number.
He's like 175.
And like, yeah, Lou's not responding at all. So it's like he could have gone 200, 300, 400,
I could have gotten more money, couldn't I?
Yeah, absolutely. I
just love his response.
Like, absolutely.
Nope. Negotiations.
Again, he's really fair. And negotiations are over. As he brings it up, throughout the next couple of scenes, he's fair. He says, "Look, you had an opportunity. Here's how much you asked for." I like the scene. They're at the killer's residence, or one of their residences where the vehicle resides, and Lou says, "I'm going to find a more interesting place to film the arrest." And then Rick laughs at that, and Lou laughs with him, because Lou thinks, oh, Rick gets it, he understands like the level of dedication we're going for with our filming. But then like Rick kind of looks at him
he's like
are you kidding me? Are you crazy? Like, yeah, exactly. Rick thinks he's joking, but Lou thinks he's along with him. And then he asks for more money, which ends up being Rick's fatal flaw, was that
greed.
Yeah, exactly. I want half. How? There's two of us. I was like, well, okay.
There's two of us in this guy.
It's a good reason. And then his line, I can see this. I never watched a trailer for this. I don't watch trailers a lot, but I could see this line being the crux of like the end of the trailer. You've got a seriously weird ass way of looking at shit. That's his character. And then they're waiting for, someone to enter the vehicle. And we get a kind of a callback to that waiting game they played at the beginning of the movie. They're waiting again, basically, for something to happen. Then as they chase, as they're pursuing the vehicle after the initial guy gets in, just the closeness that Lou is willing
too close.
He's totally fearless. Like throughout the rest of this movie, like his, I imagine in his mind, he's like, if I die, I die, but I'm going to get the best story if I don't. So, and he's lucky that he doesn't, die and all of this. They're going to see us. We're in a red car.
Yeah, we're in a red car.
And then he calls the cops and he gives them his
real
name. Yeah. So that, again, is accentuating his confidence of, like, that he knows exactly what amount of information to give before he is implicated and he gets caught. I'm assuming if he's caught, and they have evidence of what he's done, that it would be obstruction of justice. That's what he would be guilty of.
Well, they said murder.
I mean, really, could you say that, though? I think obstruction of justice is really all they could give him.
No, if it led to the deaths of like cops, I don't really.
But they would have to prove that his goal was to kill cops. In a way, it was.
Well, it wouldn't be first degree.
Well, okay, yeah.
It'd be like second or third or something.
Third degree, yeah, that makes sense.
Because I guess you could probably get with like aiding, abetting and stuff too.
Yeah.
And withholding information as a thing.
All kinds of things. Okay. Yeah. So solid. And his confidence that won't happen to him is staggering. And then that line.
Well, he probably researched it all online.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Touche. Yeah. And then his line, as he's had it, he's reached his wit's end with Rick and his excuses. What if my problem wasn't that I don't understand people, but that I don't like them? He's just like, here's the truth, man. Yeah. And then what if I'm going to hurt you if you don't get out and film this scene from across the street? Yeah. And Rick realizes that he's fully capable of that mentally and physically. So
he's like, that's what I'm saying as clearly as I can.
As clearly as I can.
That was like just my favorite.
And then one of the criminals pulls out a gun, and then you're like, this is about to get crazy. Yeah. And then it occurred to me, like, during this viewing, I mean, every viewing, as he's following this chase scene in the car, how much variety there is in the movie. Like, in all of the different scenes that he films, there's a shooting, a burglary, the plane crash, which he doesn't actually film, going into the home and filming, the aftermath of a shooting. The variety of the situations that he gets himself in that we get to witness is really great, which is, really keeps the movie compelling for its 2-hour runtime. This scene, the chase scene, is filmed on Laurel Canyon Boulevard, only a couple blocks from where a bank robbery took place in 1997 in Los Angeles. The film is actually filmed in Los Angeles as well as taking place there. A bank robbery took place there. There was a shootout that resulted in the death of the robbers in 1997, so kind of an interesting tidbit there. He's right behind, he's following the police that are following the criminal.
Yeah.
And then he's right behind the criminal as the police car gets, run into, T-boned by another car, again showing his, willingness to risk to get the great shot. And then as the police car and the SUV crash, does a U-turn, stops the car, gets out, looks at the villain and says he's dead. Clearly not. And then he hides behind the car to get another great shot of the murder of his business partner. Again, probably planning something like this all along. You kind of wonder if he hadn't been presented with this opportunity, what would he have done to get rid of Rick? Because it's clear that Rick is now dispensable and needs to be dispensed of in his mind. And this is how he...
And he tells him, you took my bargaining position.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is how he goes about doing it. But
would have done it again.
What would he have done if he hadn't been presented with an opportunity for someone else to kill him?
Cut his brake lines.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think Rick had a car though, and he says, what would you, how much further would you have gone by taking away my bargaining chip? And Rick says, I don't know. And he says, I know.
Yeah.
I know. And then he takes the camera. And I like, Lou is never in a hurry. He kind of slowly takes the camera, even though there are police cars advancing, because he has done everything he needs to do to ensure that he has not broken the law in such a way that there's evidence to prove it. So he's very patient in what he does and doesn't rush through things. And then he's running through the newsroom, and we already see the camaraderie between him and everybody
the newscasters
else.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Lou, right?
Yeah.
Hey.
I can tell it's Friday by your tie. Yeah. Video news, right? Really original, dude. And then the final scene between Nina and Lou, just so creepy. Wasn't that your partner? And you could just see how into it she is, enamored she is with,
because it's like a really romantic kind of shot.
Yeah,
when they're turning to each other and stuff.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, this is weird.
It is, yeah, and it just kind of shows that his psychosis is, her psychosis is just as deep as his is.
Well, and then she, because the other guy comes in and goes we can't air this.
Frank, comes in and says it was cocaine. It was a drug. It was a drug deal, and that's why they killed him.
And she goes give it for the 12 o'clock or whatever.
I like, she says it detracts from the story, and he says it is the story. Yeah. And
she's like, you're as bad as Lou. And
yeah,
Lou is an inspiration.
And then one last conversation between Lou and the police officer, or the private investigator. He's a fantastic liar, just so good at playing innocent. His line, I like to say, if you're seeing me, you're having the worst day of your life.
That's what I wrote down, too.
True.
Seeing me, you're having the worst day of your life.
So true. And then he's got these nice shades.
That was your partner. The ambulance came.
Yeah.
They're medical professionals.
That's their job, and this is my job to film it. You filmed him. That's my job.
Yeah.
He's very matter-of-fact about it. And then it shoots as he's walking down the sidewalk, admiring, he walks by the police and they have their window down. He listens to the scanner, kind of has a little smile about it. And then it focuses on his watch. Is it the same watch from the beginning? I'm assuming the watch that he stole from the beginning. I'm assuming that's why they focused on it. Mm-hmm. And then his line to his future employees, or his current employees, his interns.
Congratulations.
I will never ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do myself.
Which is true.
Exactly. We as viewers are going, that's true. Okay, yeah. So going on into bits of trivia that I didn't pepper in throughout our commentary. Lou blinks very rarely. Jake Gyllenhaal's character Lou blinks very rarely. Again, another decision on the behalf of the actor. It was also something that he did as Donnie Darko. He just thought the character should blink as little as possible. So, and this character was always very wide-eyed, which...
Yeah, I thought they were kind of similar.
Jake Gyllenhaal isn't always naturally, wide-eyed. He usually has kind of this droopy, thing going. So this is a quote from director Dan Gilroy on the impetus for the film. He says, quote, I think to some degree it's certainly an indictment of local television news, but I'd like to cast a wider net in the sense that all of us really watch these images. I would hope that maybe a viewer would take it further and maybe go, why do I watch these images, and how many of these images do I want to put into my own spirit, unquote. Really cool, just kind of encapsulation of what the movie means to him. At one point during the movie, I didn't catch where this was. I didn't read this till after having watched it this time. At one point, he passes a billboard that's just a pair of eyes, and it's a reference to F. Scott Fitzgerald's Great Gatsby, which, again, is another movie that focuses on the American dream and what its flaws are. Jake Gyllenhaal appears in every scene, so every scene has to do with his character. He's always there in every scene. Mm-hmm. He did his own driving for the most part throughout the movie, including the chase scene at the end. And the body count of the movie is 8. It feels like it's a lot more than that, but what we see on film is 8 dead bodies throughout the movie. That's it. That's Nightcrawler.
That would be right.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite 2014 movies. If we had a top 2014, it'd probably be in the top 5. But I would say, not a lot of notes. You clearly just kind of enjoyed the movie as you're watching it. Maybe 4 out of 5.
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
My biggest complaint was it wasn't long enough.
Oh, really? Nice. Yeah. You wanted to see more.
Yeah.
That's a good complaint.
Because I felt like it went by really quickly.
Yeah.
I knew it was a 2-hour runtime, obviously.
Yeah.
But when it was done, I was like, I didn't feel like that.
This is probably the movie that I was taking the most notes during.
Well,
and just kind of
a third viewing, though, too.
Yeah, well, true, yeah. But, I was constantly... I even rewound it a couple times because I felt like I missed something that I wanted to take a note on, because so much of this movie there's not really any filler in it. It's all just, it's so well paced, well acted, well directed, well written, and the music, absolutely fantastic. I actually have not downloaded the soundtrack, but
song at the end was my favorite.
Yeah, that was an interesting throw, and it's just kind of like this levity to what just happened, what we just saw. For me, it's a total 5 out of 5, nothing I would change about the movie. But yeah, totally glad you enjoyed it. What are we doing next week?
I wanted to show you the movie Frailty.
Frailty?
Yep.
Who's in that?
Bill Paxton.
Very pertinent. Okay, I'm on board.
Yeah. No, it's been sitting there, and I've been wanting to watch it, and I was like, hey, Jesse has not seen this one. So then it was just kind of a coincidence that Bill Paxton was in this one.
So next week it's going to be Frailty.
Yeah.
Hope you guys will join us for that. Jump in on the comments. Let us know what you thought of Nightcrawler. My name is Jesse Hughes.
And as always, I'm Daniel A. Gilmore.
This has been Show
and Tell.